In a realm of whispers and walled cities where silence sat heavy as stone, an aging strategist faced the unthinkable. It was the Three Kingdoms era, an age of grand ambitions and sudden betrayals. A city teetered on the edge of calamity, its gates trembling before a relentless horde. Inside, the venerable Zhuge Liang stood, not a single quiver of fear breaking his calm. Outside, Sima Yi marched, tens of thousands at his back, poised for a conquest all but assured. But as the dust rose and the drums thundered, an empty city bore witness to strategy spun from the very threads of myth. Prepare to enter the world of the empty city stratagem, where a broom, a zither, and a mind versed in human nature tilted the scales of fate in the whispering winds of war. Picture a time where strategy and survival intertwined with astonishing audacity. Step into the storied past of ancient China, amidst the turbulent Three Kingdoms period. Here lies a city under threat, poised at the precarious edge of fate, its fate hanging upon the shoulders of one remarkable individual, Zhuge Liang. This tale unfolds like a shadow play of tactics and tenacity, not on the field of battle, but within the chambers of the mind. In this beleaguered city, a tense quiet replaces the usual melody of commerce and chatter. As the citizenry anticipates the inevitable clash of arms, threatened by an enemy innumerable as grains of sand, the city appears defenceless, save for the keen wit of Zhuge Liang, a strategist whose wisdom is etched into the annals of history. As a philosopher general of extraordinary insight, he faces an intimidating foe. The challenge is not solely about physical might, but also about turning the tide of inevitability through raw intellect. Like an unarmed gladiator poised for battle, this city must rely on the cunning and composure that Zhuge Liang embodies. The Three Kingdoms era was one of seismic shifts within China, where fragments of a fallen dynasty competed relentlessly. The land was a chessboard of ambitions, each piece vying ruthlessly for dominion. Amidst this cauldron of conflict emerged Zhuge Liang, a beacon of strategy and cerebral fortitude. His fortress, Shu, stood as one of three powerhouses contending for supremacy. Each city had become an indispensable token in this grand game, vital not only for territory, but for life itself. Against the backdrop of turmoil, Zhuge Liang emerged not only as a military tactician, but as a thinker who could see patterns where others saw chaos. On the horizon loomed Sima Yi, a commander cut from the same cunning cloth as Zhuge Liang. His army, disciplined and vast, surges like an inevitable tide, bearing down with implacable determination. Beneath this advancing storm, whispers of fear ripple through the city, yet are tempered by Zhuge Liang's uncanny tranquility. Here, battles are not only fought with steel, but waged within the crucible of the human spirit. Underneath the calm exterior, actions are weighed like rare commodities, every decision a potential turning point in the precarious balance of power. In the hearts of the city's inhabitants, worries and hopes intertwine as one. They look to Zhuge Liang, a master who blends philosophy, warfare and psychology as seamlessly as a painter's brush across a canvas. Known as the Sleeping Dragon, he stands as a testament to the cerebral facets of military prowess. For him, war is a canvas of subtle manipulation and profound understanding, transcending mere physical engagements. His strategies reflect the Confucian ideals of balance and harmony, where deft subversion triumphs over brute force. The city is vulnerable with only a minimal contingent of soldiers to buffer against Sima Yi's impending onslaught. Yet, in this apparent fragility lies an opportunity. Zhuge Liang aims to fashion from these slender resources a fortress of indomitable will. He sees beyond the immediate, crafting illusions as convincingly as fortresses of stone. His battlefield is one of minds as much as blood and bone, a dual theatre where intellect and courage waltz. Without the customary barricades or troops, the city stands exposed with nothing but its mystique for defence. The absence of action becomes its own powerful presence. A breathtaking display of emptiness against the backdrop of impending chaos. Zhuge Liang, a craftsman of deception, turns the traditional playbook on its head. Instead of reinforcing walls, he throws open the gates, whispers of secrets unseen, transforming the tangible void into an armoury of phantoms. As the foreboding host arrives, Sima Yi's forces find not resistance but eerie calm. This stillness echoes louder than the clamour of conflict, an uncanny enigma rather than a welcome. Before them stretches a peculiar challenge, bypassing any steel-clad defence. In its place stands the psychological labyrinth spun by Zhuge Liang, a masterful puppeteer pulling on the strings of human uncertainty. Silence becomes Zhuge Liang's lute, playing a haunting harmony in this realm of strategic improvisation. Here, where swords might have clashed and arrows flown, is the realm of anticipation, where stillness wields a sharper edge than any blade. Through artful nuance and the deft orchestration of fear, he creates a battlefield without battle, a masterstroke in the annals of wartime cunning. Beyond the immediate siege, this narrative echoes through ages, testament to a truth transcending temporal bounds. The open gates and hollow streets symbolise more than cunning. They reflect profound mastery of insight. In the quiet aftermath, as life reclaims its familiar cadence, Zhuge Liang's legacy breathes on. A saga reborn within each retelling, imparting to the future the lesson that might does not always make right. It tells of a man who turned potential tragedy into a tale of triumph, his legend echoing like forgotten winds through the corridors of time. Zhuge Liang, also known as Kongming, emerged during the chaotic Three Kingdoms era, a period steeped in division and the clash of emerging empires following the Han dynasty's fall. Born into a noble family, he was steeped in the Confucian classics. As a child, he was already marked by a prodigious intellect. In his youth, he retreated into solitude to absorb nature's lessons alongside strategy and philosophy, earning him the evocative title of Crouching Dragon. Liu Bei, a warlord with aspirations of grandeur, saw in Zhuge Liang not just a military mind, but a sage, and drew him into his fold, elevating him to the post of Chancellor of Shuhan. Here, Zhuge Liang demonstrated that might need not always birth power. Wisdom and an ability to weave circumstances to his advantage were equally potent. The times were brutal and demanding, a tapestry of power plays and territorial wars where mental acuity often trumped sheer strength. Zhuge Liang shaped the fate of his state not only through battlefield brilliance but also through astute governance, straining to forge peace and prosperity. His roles and responsibilities extended beyond clashes of steel to crafting a society that reflected his ideals. Passing through crises with a deliberate hand, Zhuge Liang applied his knowledge to decipher and manipulate the minds of both allies and enemies. A dual persona emerged, part warlord, part contemplative philosopher, which allowed him to straddle the line between the metaphysical and the mundane with a deftness few could rival. Every move Zhuge Liang made in warfare was shaped by classical Chinese philosophy, especially that of Sun Tzu, where the manipulation of perception and expectation took precedence over direct conflict. War was an art form, a grand, sweeping extension of the natural laws, where balance could be tipped by a whisper, not a shout. He recognized the power lying dormant in deception, a trait his northern expeditions would later exemplify. Shenanigans and cunning over raw power allowed him to negate the advantages held by more numerous or strategically placed foes. Zhuge Liang turned warfare from a bloody confrontation into an exercise in intellect, where the mind's subtleties wielded more power than the mightiest sword. Wrapped in the folds of Taoist thought, he aimed to win battles with minimal bloodshed, letting intuition and profound insight guide his maneuvers. When faced with the imminent threat of Sima Yi's forces, Zhuge Liang did not flinch. Battered by forces he could not match, he found solace and clarity in the calm before the storm. His demeanour, a tranquil sea amid chaos, was no act. It was the culmination of years meditating on philosophical truths and honing his understanding of the human psyche. In this serene state, he could spin strategies out of stillness, drawing wisdom from the silence. The meditation became action, birthing the empty city stratagem, a plan relying on the deepest insights into psychological warfare. He defied the typical responses to fear, flight or fight, and instead opted for a cunningly different game, trusting in his reputation to seed doubt within the enemy. Placing himself in Sima Yi's shoes, Zhuge Liang's anticipation of his adversary's moves shaped his success. He understood that Sima Yi's caution and thorough nature would make him wary of traps, leading him to perceive illusions of strength as reality. Zhuge Liang's chessboard was the battlefield, his moves preemptive guesses of his opponent's desires and weaknesses, a tapestry of nuance and psychological probing unseen by any sword. This prowess was rooted in a long-standing study and a remarkable capacity to stand apart from the fevered clamour of the battlefield, gauging his opponent's thoughts as if they were his own. Zhuge Liang did not merely act, he created illusions so persuasive that the truth and deception wove seamlessly together. The empty city stratagem showcased this mastery, built on his understanding that the most compelling illusions were backed by truth. His calm composure on the city wall, coupled with the forlorn strumming of a zither, was more than a performance. It was a calculated masterpiece that played with the minds of Sima Yi and his troops. His ability to sculpt plausible scenes from mere possibilities cemented his legend and shifted the perception of war from physical engagement to cerebral contest. Fear and awe were as potent as any weapon, and Zhuge Liang wielded his reputation with precision. While other warriors relied on numbers and weaponry, he used stories of his craft and cunning to enmesh his foes in a web of psychological trickery before a battle even began. Combat was more than physical. It was an elaborate game where perception could skew reality, and Zhuge Liang's legend did as much work as his strategies. Sima Yi faced not just a city but a myth, the aura of Kongming adding invisible defences to formidable bastions. Victory for Zhuge Liang resided in the theatre of the mind, where the battle could be won without the clash of arms. By delving into the cerebral fears of his adversaries, he summoned doubts more powerful than an army, and in his orchestration of the empty city stratagem, altered the entire trajectory of Sima Yi's assault with nothing but an atmosphere of invincibility crafted through pure psychological skill. Through understanding and subtly bending the world's perceptions, Zhuge Liang turned stories and silence into allies, proving forever that warfare's greatest victories are held within the human mind. In the harsh realm of ancient warfare, a siege was not merely conflict, but an agonizing test of endurance, where both spirit and body faltered against the slow grinding of time. Cities swathed in the mystical scents of incense mingling with the sharp stench of sweat and fear became bastions shut against the relentless approach of forces unknown. Walls stretched high, thick and sturdy, meant to defy the elements and enemy alike. As foes circled like vultures, inhabitants hoarded grain while rats scurried in shadowy corners, whispering tales of what might come. Desperation brewed from the constant expectation of battle, transforming patience into a double-edged sword where one either fortified one's gut with courage or let despair trickle in through the cracks. Enter Zhuge Liang, a figure whose very presence commanded hushed awe, much like the silent approval of revered ancestors. When most would urge their men to bar the gates and man the towers, their breath clouding in the chill air, he saw beyond the rigours of conventional defence. Zhuge, with his keen gaze and enigmatic smile, understood human nature, its folly and fear, its potential for deception. While others girded themselves in predictable steel, he wove a strategy as deft and delicate as silk, opening paths laced with uncertainty and bait. Beyond the mere logic of war lies the psychology of defence, a domain where Zhuge reigned supreme. City walls weren't just barriers, they were emblems of defiance, echoing with tales as old as time. Yet Zhuge knew that a fortress's strength could as easily become its weakness if hope calcified into despair. He saw the need to shatter the manacles of routine preparation, scattering the dusty shackles of predictability by the window of a new dawn. His audacity in leaving gates open challenged all he commanded, soldiers and civilians alike, to grasp the courage in uncertainty, liberating their minds from the shared delusion of safety behind stone. Deception, Zhuge's most trusted ally, shimmered invisibly in the morning light as it danced through the alleys, whispering the promise of a different kind of power. Zhuge draped hesitation over Sima Yi's mind, turning what seemed vulnerability into an impossible riddle. Invisible armours formed from shadows played out against sunlit ramparts, giving doubting space to fester within the enemy camp. His dreamlike strategy belied madness and spoke instead of an intricate dance between seeing and being seen, vulnerability crafted into unyielding solidity through sheer belief. The strangest echo of this strategic symphony lay in Zhuge's simple broom, a humble emblem against the grandeur of warfare. Holding it aloft in whimsical rebellion, he swept calmly, dust rising like ancient spirits to mingle with new dawn's breeze. The act transformed from domesticity to audacious resolve, a statement as powerful as any sharpened blade. Soldiers on the wall, fists and weapons clenched, saw not madness but a symbol of masterful narrative woven into the very fabric of their reality. One that teased out strength from tranquility. Spectators expected a siege fought tooth and nail, yet found spectacle in the unanticipated stillness that Zhuge orchestrated. He nuanced the narrative from one of attrition to audaciousness, pivoting the ancient milieu's expectations like a master of ceremonies, guiding a forgotten play. Preparation for what seemed inevitable made way for the baffling possible, infusing new life into a mindset grown stagnant with fear and routine. Authority, typically drawn from tangible rank and past glories, tempered with Zhuge's finesse. His presence echoed with sagas of intellect over impulse, his audacity a beacon that won trust even amidst bewilderment. For to inspire means not just to guide but to transcend what was, embracing what might be, with bold acts transforming skepticism into unwavering loyalty. His charisma convened courage amidst chaos, sketching blueprints of belief in his followers' hearts. At the heart of it all lies instinct intertwined with intuition, a braided wisdom woven deeply within Zhuge's core. These threads spun from experience, nurtured over years, coloured decision-making with hues of unseen possibilities and whispered ancestral echoes. Yet what truly resonates is Zhuge's harmony with humanity, a reminder that great leaders bridge the divide between heart and mind, guided by truths spoken in silence. Even traditions steeped in a culture as ancient as China's find themselves reshaped, their very essence curious and questioned under Zhuge's daring defiance. Customs yoked to legend and honour, reimagined, revealed that strength lies not in shouting greatness but in whispering genius. This legacy whispers across time, remnants of valour echoing in each breeze, asking us to ponder anew what courage and cunning might look like. Efforts resonating through time, making shadows dance across generations. From Zhuge's hands, a chapter unfolds, a tapestry of unexpected strength that turned foes on their heels with the simplest of gestures. The tale, as familiar as worn parchment and riddled with lively wisdom, offers its wisdom, not solely to warriors, but to all those who find wonder in the space where creativity breathes life into barricaded possibilities. This legacy, stretching beyond its era, ushers in thoughts of open gates and the endless horizons they promise, whispering the ageless truth to listeners round the hearth, where walls defend, doors and minds open. In a scene that could rival any dark tale spun by the fireside, Zhuge Liang transformed the eerie stillness of a city on the edge of annihilation into his greatest ally. As Sima Yi's formidable forces approached, the gate stood wide open, welcoming yet hauntingly silent. The absence of chaos, of shouting soldiers and clattering weapons, spoke louder than any battle cry. It was a calculated maneuver, a dance of shadows and whispers, designed to unsettle even the most seasoned warrior. From the city's towering walls, Zhuge Liang fashioned his stage. Alone he began to play a zither, its delicate notes floating out into the tense air, weaving a melody that wrapped itself around the quiet stone streets below. Each note was deliberate, a message wrapped in mystery, challenging the expectations of the besiegers. Here was a general who dared to meet an army, not with steel, but with song. The very act seemed to defy the grim reality of a siege, conjuring an image of unshakable confidence or perhaps a cleverly disguised desperation. This display was not lost on Sima Yi's scouts. Hidden in the shadows, they watched and listened, their minds caught in a web of confusion and intrigue. Their reports back to their commander painted a puzzling picture: an undefended city, a lone figure on the wall, calmly playing his zither amid pending doom. Was this a final act of defiance, or a cunning trap laid by a mind renowned for its strategic brilliance? These questions gnawed at the edges of certainty, inviting caution where there might have once been aggression. Known across the lands not just as a military leader, Zhuge Liang was also a philosopher of warfare, a man whose reputation had been carefully crafted through years of uncanny victories. His aura of mystique, built upon tales told around campfires and whispered in enemy camps, lent credence to the elaborate ruse he was now orchestrating. It was a reputation that inspired both awe and dread, turning his every action into potential myth and reinforcing the power of perception as a tool of war. In the space where reality met imagination, Zhuge Liang thrived. The simplicity of his tactics belied a complex understanding of human psychology. He did not need to hide armies within the city's walls. The threat of ambiguity was a far more effective weapon. By transforming absence into presence, he manipulated the theatre of combat, forcing Sima Yi to grapple with spectres of his own making. Yet this was no mere act of bravado. Zhuge Liang knew well the mind of Sima Yi, his cautious rival, who had fallen prey to his strategic depth before. The gamble was immense, the stakes nothing less than survival itself, but Zhuge's was a calculated risk, a testament to his grasp of the profound dance of probability. With every haunting note from the zither, he wagered on his ability to deceive, to lift perception above reality. Sima Yi, peering through layers of doubt and previous defeats at the hands of Zhuge's cunning, hesitated. The curtain of uncertainty cast by the reports from his scouts added weight to his deliberations. Would he find victory behind those silent gates, or an invisible army waiting to descend upon his forces? In the mental battlefield waged within his own mind, caution paralysed aggression, and Sima Yi chose withdrawal over ruin. This episode in the larger saga of Chinese military history underscores a fundamental truth. Power often resides in its perception. Zhuge Liang's empty city stratagem shone a light on how the fear of the unknown can overshadow even the most impressive forces, revealing the battlefield as much a construct of the mind as of land. In this triumph of illusion, where silence shaped the narrative more potently than any army, Zhuge Liang left an enduring legacy, a reflection on the power of intellect and poise in the face of insurmountable odds. His lone figure on the ancient wall, bound in an aura of serene defiance, stands as a reminder of humanity's capacity for ingenuity and calm even under the darkest clouds of fate. Here in this moment, music stood instead of weapons, and the silence carried the weight of history's most profound lessons. In the dusty waft of early morning light, Sima Yi, the formidable commander, stood at the verge of a pivotal moment. Each grain of sand blowing against his armour might have been a life's worth in decisions and responsibilities. The landscape before him was not just a city on the brink, but a massive chessboard, where each piece moved with the weight of countless lives. The challenge was clear: to march forward or to hold back. However, this wasn't merely about physical conquest. Rather, it was an intricate game of unravelling his opponent's psychological tapestry. Zhuge Liang was no ordinary adversary. Sima Yi's thoughts danced between cunning strategy and the shadows of past battles, where each encounter carved a complicated mix of admiration and rivalry. Their mental skirmishes had intensified over the years, becoming less about pure force and more a duel of intellect, a notion that both respected and infuriated Sima Yi. Each past encounter injected into the battlefield a tapestry of victories, lessons learned, and strategic feints that echoed in the silent city before him. Sima Yi realised that Zhuge Liang's greatest weapon was not a battalion of soldiers, but a masterful strategy that made him question the certainty of visible truths. Zhuge's city was empty, the gates flung wide in a peculiar invitation. Was it merely a clever ruse, a theatrical setup aiming to manipulate perception? The absence of armed resistance fixed itself as a resounding alarm in Sima Yi's mind, a message wrapped in ambiguity and doubt that led him to treat the silent streets with the same wariness one claims for a coiled serpent. This was what Sima Yi found himself grappling with as he stared into the apparent nothingness. The silence was laden with intent, a booming warning cloaked in tranquility. The quiet city masked Zhuge's hidden ranks, his men concealed yet declaring their presence without a whisper. The leap from visible to imagined dangers was the battlefield Sima Yi found himself on, forcing him to evaluate each decision as he comprehended Zhuge's powerful manipulation of perception. The gates, open and inviting, were not a testament to defeat, but were instead a bold gauntlet thrown at his feet. Their audacity challenged any notion of predictable warfare, where defences were to be stout and gates secured. Zhuge Liang's open gates served as a powerful symbol of his cunning, that he could convincingly present vulnerabilities as inherent strengths. With each step toward those gates, the uncertain mystique of a trap intensified, questioning the traditional narratives of seize and conquer. In this subtle arena of warfare, intellect subdued aggression, urging the need to decipher silence before launching a full charge. Mastery lay in the balance of patience over the impulse to conquer. Sima Yi embodied this ethos as he resisted the sirens of conquest to listen intently to the hushed tones of the city. Victory could be unseen, unfelt, echoes never fully heard except by the most seasoned strategists. The wisdom revered here was understanding that strategy demanded more than just military might. It demanded the introspection of every heartbeat and whisper of quietude. Hovering between decision and action, Sima Yi ultimately chose restraint. It was the triumph of a commander who recognized that the battlefield sometimes demanded inaction as the greatest show of strength. Zhuge Liang's prowess lay in weaving an unseen web where even the anticipation of action became its barrier. Choosing to retreat was not seen as defeat, it was a strategic move, solidifying Sima Yi's grasp on the broader game of war, where victory was a byproduct of sagacity. Silence, with its layered symphony of soundless warnings, imbued the atmosphere with tense anticipation. Each decision Sima Yi made hummed with Zhuge's silent symphony, crafting an exquisite paradox of peace becoming war's instrument. Mastery of the battlefield, Zhuge knew, resided in the mind's theatre where shadows rendered the sharpest blades, where drawn swords were replaced by mental manoeuvres. The confrontation, while devoid of physical combat, left a lasting legacy, as its very absence of direct conflict taught timeless lessons. The tale of Zhuge's empty city was one of triumph without loss, where intellect ruled supreme. Strategists and historians alike would reflect on this instance, where actionless conflict wrested respect from simple aggression, redefining the art of strategy. This mesmerizing episode demonstrated that true conquest emerged when intellect shone brighter than the sword. Zhuge's brilliant encore, Sima Yi's respectful withdrawal, was not surrender, but a demonstration of understanding that sometimes retreat today prepares for victory tomorrow. It was indeed a story where silence spoke louder than words, forging Zhuge's reputation across the annals of time, veiling his actions in a shroud of legend that continues to echo in the realm of strategy and beyond. In a tale that echoes through the ages, the dawn broke over a city teetering on the brink, casting long shadows that danced across its ancient walls. Atop these battlements, in a display both audacious and serene, sat Zhuge Liang, a master of cunning and composure, playing his zither as if war were a mere footnote. This was no ordinary encounter. It was a battle woven from sound and silence, courage and apprehension, perception and reality. The city stood still, its defenders hidden, clutching their weapons with knuckles white, anticipating an assault that never came. Instead of the expected clash of swords and chaos of battle, there was simply a soft melody, carried by the breeze, a symphony of quietude that held both city and siege in suspension. Sima Yi's forces, formidable and battle-weary, hesitated at this unexpected spectacle. Hardened soldiers now faced an eerie calm that upset their calculated strategies. Zhuge Liang, with his gentle music and unyielding poise, became a figure of defiance, transcending mere martial prowess. The psychological battleground he orchestrated was not one of physical dominance, but of mental mastery, where the suggestion of dread took root in the absence of evidence, whispering ambushes and reinforcements into the minds of the invaders. This quiet confrontation, an embodiment of the empty city stratagem, demonstrated Zhuge Liang's profound understanding of warfare, a world where perception effortlessly eclipsed actual strength. In this delicate dance of deceit, Zhuge Liang wielded the art of illusion, transforming emptiness into a formidable weapon. The supposed vulnerability of an unguarded city masked a labyrinth of strategic sophistication, forcing Sima Yi to question reality itself. How indeed could a seemingly defenseless city stare down the thronging might of his army? The unassuming cityscape was a mirror for Zhuge Liang's genius, reflecting fears onto the minds of foes, compelling them to retreat from what seemed a straightforward conquest. Without a single arrow loosed, Zhuge Liang captured not just a moment but a legacy. Sima Yi's decision not to attack marked a triumph for Zhuge Liang's shrewd chess-like tactics. Rather than succumbing to the weakness of apparent aggression, Sima Yi acknowledged the strength of discretion, revealing the wisdom inherent in retreat. His choice not to seize a city, left suspiciously open, stood as a testament to the power of Zhuge Liang's legendary ruse. What might seem a defeat was, in truth, a considering nod to strategy's deeper lessons, where even inaction can echo with its own thunderous wisdom. His forces withdrew, their backs against the tales of warfare not written by steel, but by shadow and subtlety, learning that sometimes the most significant victories are born from conflict avoided. As the story of the empty city stratagem was shared and reshaped over the years, it transformed from a military anecdote into a larger parable, a narrative that championed brains over brawn, serenity over savagery. Around firesides and in grand halls, this episode lived on, rich with simplicity and layered nuance. Its lessons stretched beyond battlefields, becoming a timeless testament to the ingenuity harboured within the human spirit. The tale moulded itself into a guide for generals and ordinary people alike, a reminder that perceived weaknesses can be mightier than visible strength. The legend of Zhuge Liang's audacious stand enjoys immortality in strategic philosophy, showcasing how perception can redefine reality's harsh edges. As thinkers and leaders draw wisdom from its depths, the story reinforces a vital truth. Sometimes an idea carries more weight than any sword, and true intellect begins in knowing not just how to fight, but when the appearance of vulnerability is the ultimate weapon. Here, Sima Yi's retreat appears not as a defeat, but an understanding of the complexity of strategic decisions, acknowledging that true power resides as much in the discretion of withdrawal as in the valour of advance. He provided an enduring lesson, one acknowledging that victors are not those who win every battle, but those who know which battles are worth fighting at all. The grace with which he withdrew offered its own form of victory, an appreciation of nuance amidst war's brutal simplicity. Zhuge Liang's legacy remains resonant, carried by the soft notes of his zither, serving as a testament that intellect, far beyond mere brute force, can birth profound change. This tale turns history into a playground for creativity and wisdom, where genius is defined not by the clash of swords, but the quiet echo of innovative thought. As future generations stand upon the shoulders of this story, they find in it an eternal reminder. The true power is often found in the delicate interplay of perception and strategy, where corners are painted not with violence, but with profound insight. Thus, the story of the empty city stratagem becomes more than a mere historical footnote. It stands as an indelible monument, a beacon of human intellect amidst adversity, a legacy that resounds through time, its whispers suggesting that sometimes in the clamour of life's battles, the most effective approach might simply be to play a different tune altogether. In this whispering silence, Zhuge Liang's melody endures, an echo timeless and true. In the realm of military chess, there exists an art that balances on the knife edge of perception and reality, the bluff. Zhuge Liang, the brilliant strategist, wielded this art with a deftness that turned the tides of fate through sheer psychological prowess. Central to this mastery was the empty city stratagem, a gamble woven from the fabric of human psychology. A successful bluff preys on the mind, planting uncertainty where there was once surety. It lures an enemy into a whirlwind of doubt, conjuring phantoms out of thin air and shifting the bedrock of certainty to unstable sand. This requires not just audacity, but a profound grasp of human nature, an understanding of the norms and pressures that shape decision-making under the gun. When Zhuge Liang flung open the city gates, Sima Yi faced an eerie silence that screamed of unseen threats from the shadows. His mind raced through endless possibilities, each more confounding than the last. A hidden army, an undetectable trap set by his wily opponent. Zhuge Liang's move was not insanity, but an intricate dance on the fine line between genius and madness, turning perceived strength into an imposing facade that hid the city's vulnerabilities. That this stratagem earned a place in the 36 stratagems is a testament to its philosophical depth. This ancient text, revered for its insights into both direct and clandestine tactics, distills the essence of human conflict and survival over generations. Amid the strategies lies the empty city stratagem, its audacious simplicity offering timeless wisdom. Victories often bloom from shadows, in arenas of perception, rather than combat. The 36 stratagems doesn't merely instruct soldiers, it guides anyone navigating the tumultuous seas of strategy. It champions adaptability, urging one to cast off rigid approaches in favour of pliancy, to appear formidable when frail and vulnerable when strong. Success, it suggests, lies not in brute force, but in the weave of illusion and surprise. Yet the legacy of the empty city stratagem stretches beyond ancient battlefields. Its principles resonate through politics and business, where strategy dictates success and perception rules the day. Nations bluff military readiness, wielding it like a weapon to project a veneer of strength and negotiate from power's perch. In the corporate world, companies use public relations to spin visions of stability, proffering security to investors while masking underlying weaknesses. The core of these varied applications is the manipulation of perception. A well-constructed narrative shapes how opponents and allies alike perceive reality, crafting advantages from shadows and doubt, transforming circumstance with a deft hand. Even literature and folklore cannot escape the stratagem's magnetic pull. Across cultures, tales where wit and cunning overshadow force echo the stratagem's essence, casting Zhuge Liang's maneuver as the archetypal trickster's triumph. In stories and plays, the narrative of the underdog facing overwhelming odds binds audiences, stirring hope and challenging the notion of power embedded in mere might. But the stratagem's brilliance does not lie solely in its deception. It also holds potential as a counter-deception, a distraction to enable more critical maneuvers elsewhere. While Sima Yi pondered the silent gates, Zhuge Liang could have been setting the stage for broader schemes, free from immediate threat. In warfare, as in life, what lies unseen often carries as much weight as what is revealed, granting Zhuge Liang time and space for unseen operations. For such a strategy to succeed, timing is crucial. Not every situation suits a bluff, nor will every opponent be ensnared by its charm. Thus, decision-makers face the dilemma of timing and context. The misstep of deploying a bluff too eagerly or on an unsuited adversary can lead to disaster. Accurate reading of both the field and the foe is imperative. Misjudge either, and the strategy collapses, exposing weakness. And failure too finds its place in the annals of history. Bluffs have crumbled when opponents saw through the veil, or dared to call it, relying on their raw strength to obliterate the illusion. These missteps lay bare the necessity for credibility within deception, and underline the razor-thin line between brilliance and folly. Moreover, the moral facets of deceptive warfare invite reflection. While some view stratagems like the empty city as vital tools for preserving lives by avoiding bloodshed, Others argue they tread too close to dishonour. Victory, some believe, should arise from honourable combat rather than shadowed manipulations. Such debates highlight the ethical complexities that hover around the use of deceit in conflict. Ultimately, the empty city stratagem reflects the legacy of Zhuge Liang as a masterful blend of warrior and philosopher. His fusion of art and strategy, embodied in the haunting notes of his zither, reveals a mind that saw war not merely as confrontation but as cultural symphony. His manoeuvres were expressions of a broader philosophy, transforming adversity into opportunity and leaving a rich tapestry for future generations to ponder and draw from. Through the ever-retelling of this tale, Zhuge Liang remains a symbol of wit, trumping force, a beacon in the mosaic of history that continues to captivate and resonate, generation after generation. In the dim glow of history's flickering torch, the tale of Zhuge Liang and his legendary empty city stratagem comes alive. This story, where intellect outwits sheer force, has captured hearts and minds over generations. Yet, as one sifts through the sands of time, the question lingers. Is it the truth or merely a grand illusion spun into the fabric of history? From the clues left by ancient sages and scholars, we find ourselves entangled in a debate as old and captivating as the tale itself, exploring the glimmering veil between legend and reality. In the age-old epic Romance of the Three Kingdoms, penned in the 14th century by Luo Guanzhong, Zhuge Liang is immortalized as a genius of strategy, unrivaled in the art of deception. Yet, this narrative, rich in drama and colour, blurs the edges of historical fact with fanciful embellishments, weaving a tapestry that celebrates both the man and the mythology. As we peer into the ancient records, we find a fascinating crossroads where the spirit of the story and the austere truth of the times intermingle. The drama of Zhuge Liang, zither in hand, facing down an army from atop city walls, may be a product of imaginative flourish. Yet it endures, inviting us into an ancient world that revered cunning and wisdom above the clashing swords of war. To truly appreciate this tale, we need to explore the context within which it emerged. The Records of the Three Kingdoms by Chen Shu, a more sober historical account, gives us a ground-level view, presenting Zhuge Liang not as a mythical figure, but as a shrewd tactician, operating under the constraints of his political and military reality. These chronicles lack the vivid drama found in Luo Guanzhong's epic, prompting us to ponder whether the elaborate stories served a purpose beyond mere entertainment. In these sparse accounts, scholars see a reflection of a deeper cultural truth, where the allure of cunning and quick wits in warfare became a beacon for storytelling across generations. Even as we comb through dusty tomes for kernels of truth, the narrative device of the empty city remains intriguing, combining elements of psychological warfare and philosophical musings. Luo Guanzhong's portrayal of Zhuge Liang as a calm philosopher amid impending doom fascinates because it speaks to the enduring power of the human mind over raw might. The story's ironic twist, where peace and chaos collide around a simple musical performance, offers a lens into ancient traditions and values, leaving us to admire the seamless merge of historical reality and artistic interpretation. Our journey through history is accompanied by ancient chroniclers like Chen Shu, whose work acts as a counterpoint to the dramatized tales, offering more factual glimpses of Zhuge Liang's life. The Records of the Three Kingdoms document the seemingly mundane alongside the illustrious, sketching a protagonist caught between the realms of historical stratagems and legendary exploits. This dichotomy keeps alive the debate among historians, even as the absence of elaborate theatrics in such accounts challenges the event's historical authenticity. Yet, this gives us cause to consider the objectives of these ancient scribes, who may have prioritized the bare bones of events over the nuances of storytelling. Beyond dusty relics and brittle pages, Zhuge Liang persists as a cultural icon, celebrated for embodying the triumph of wisdom. He emerges not just from the ink of scribes, but as a paragon in poetry, art and theatre, where his clever manoeuvres illustrate a broader yearning for leadership infused with intellect. This transformation of Zhuge Liang from a man of history to a beacon of moral ideals amplifies his story, pushing boundaries beyond the historic into the eternal. The empty city manoeuvres don't just recount an ancient battle, but serve as a moral compass, guiding future generations to value cunning above brawn. The essence of Zhuge Liang's wisdom extends further into the arena of psychological warfare, where the stratagem stands as a textbook example of tactics that transcended time. In contemplating its authenticity, historians consider the context of using fear and uncertainty as weapons. The tale embodies strategic elegance, reflecting principles that have inspired countless leaders across centuries. While its factuality may be disputed, its wisdom offers real-world lessons on the power of perception, echoing in military textbooks across the globe. As modern historians pore over these texts, the debate around Zhuge Liang continues to stir intrigue, revealing a portrait as much about our fascination with strategy as about the man himself. Scholars dissect the tale as a case study in creativity, aligning with ancient Chinese military thought. Though some view it with a skeptical eye, the stratagem persists, shedding light on how such stories mould our understanding of ingenious warfare. This dialogue between past and present, fact and fable, enhances the story's allure, proving that the allure of strategic mastery, whether true or embellished, never fades. In winding through the legends and truths of Zhuge Liang's time, we find that the empty city stratagem is more than an old tale. It is a testament to enduring ideals, from ancient courts to modern boardrooms. The lessons of Zhuge Liang's calculated defiance ring true. The narrative, whether factual or fictional, captures minds with its testament to wit and resilience, making it a story that transcends epochs, offering timeless wisdom that continues to resonate. In the shadowy alleys of history, where soldiers whispered secrets and strategists spun webs of deception, the story of Zhuge Liang's empty city stratagem continues to echo, a haunting reminder of the power of perception. This ancient tale, steeped in the enduring art of deception, is not merely an episode of medieval Chinese warfare. It's a testament to the universal language of outwitting opponents through psychological finesse, a language that transcends time and geography. Imagine, if you will, the general's calm demeanour as he surveys the battleground not with swords at the ready, but through the simple act of sitting down to play a zither, as though the enemy before him were but a phantom of the mind's making. His genius lay not in overt displays of strength, but in orchestrating a symphony of doubt within his enemy's heart. Such cunning is found not only in the corridors of Chinese warfare, but has seeped into the bloodstream of strategic thought the world over. Even today, from corporate boardrooms to military command centres, the art of manipulating perception remains a potent weapon. Take a step back to the Napoleonic Wars, where Marshal Michel Ney, echoing Zhuge Liang's footsteps, faced overwhelming coalition forces. Ney, resourceful and unyielding, spread his thin lines of soldiers wide, crafting an illusion of invulnerability. The enemy hesitated, buying Napoleon precious moments to rally. This was strategy not bound to numbers, but to the shadows of the human psyche, much like Zhuge Liang had practiced centuries before. World War II offers further testaments to this elegant dance of smoke and mirrors. The Allies, in their Operation Bodyguard, spun webs of falsehoods to mislead Hitler's spies, diverting attention away from Normandy's beaches. Here, the principles of illusion and distraction breathed life once more into a stratagem. Thought ancient and dusty. In the theatre of international relations, where nations fashion themselves as giants or sleepers, the echoes of the empty city stratagem reverberate still. During the Cold War, the superpowers engaged in a precarious ballet, each projecting shadows of nuclear might, compelling the other to tread cautiously in this midnight waltz of deterrence. Here, illusion was not just the art of war but of peace, a tense peace held together with strings of bluff and bravado. The corporate world too spins its own tales of strategic deception. Picture a startup entering the arena with little more than a bright idea and an audacious marketing strategy, projecting might and innovation that belies its humble beginnings. It's akin to Zhuge Liang's zither playing, a melody of confidence masking the reality beneath. Corporate giants remind us that perception can be a fortress, formidable as any wall of stone. Beyond the weighty halls of military and business, the everyday world dances to the tune of similar strategies. Card games like poker distill these principles to their essence, where bluffs and bluffs upon bluffs are played out with chips and gaze across a green felt table. Victories here are won not with force, but with the deft touch of a psychological artist, a nod to the general plucking strings on a wall as armies closed in. Espionage, that cloak and dagger field of whispers and shadows, also traces patterns tightened through centuries of practice. Intelligence operatives craft elaborate deceptions, confidences that are so wafer-thin yet formidable, much like Zhuge Liang's empty city. The potential lies in turning one's invisibility into the enemy's dread, feeding them illusions their minds complete in fear. With the dawn of the digital age, the principles behind the empty city stratagem have found new realms in cyberspace, where hackers and cybersecurity defences alike engage in virtual sleights of hand. The world of honeypots and veiled attacks, much like the silent streets Zhuge Liang presented as bait, teaches us that the best defense often lies in presenting a threat that may not exist, but is nonetheless believed. Storytellers across cultures and generations grasp these enduring truths, weaving such tales into narratives that inspire and caution. These stories, thriving as folk tales and dramas, nurture the human fascination with cleverness over sheer might, illustrating the enduring appeal of the underdog. They serve as both entertainment and lodging tests for the strategic mind, urging us to find wisdom in the ghosts of our past. In all these manifestations, what remains at the heart of Zhuge Liang's story is a profound understanding of human psychology, how fear, hope and deception interplay to shape decisions, delay actions, and ultimately decide outcomes in unexpected ways. His legacy is not of weaponry or warfare, but of striking a chord in the consciousness of leaders, reminding us all that sometimes the most formidable weapon rests not in the hand, but in the mind. As readers today, we are gently prompted to see the weight of wisdom in every choice, a gift from an ancient strategist who found strength in the appearance of serenity, even as danger loomed large at the gates. In the haunting stillness of a beleaguered city, where markets lay abandoned and silence stretched its eerie fingers across every street, Zhuge Liang sat upon the high wall, cradling a zither. The city, teetering on the edge of despair, had ceased to bustle with life and vitality, turning instead into a tableau of anxious anticipation. Citizens within its walls, aware of the looming threat posed by Sima Yi's formidable army, awaited their fate with bated breath. Beyond the physical fortifications, it was the fragile hopes and fears of the people that encased them, pressing in with a weight more tangible than any stone wall. The silence was impenetrable, punctuated only by the whispered fears of those who dared to imagine what lay beyond the horizon. Yet amidst this quiet terror, Zhuge Liang exuded an almost supernatural calmness, as if time itself slowed in deference to his composure. He did not clutch a sword or rally troops. Instead, he wielded his zither like a talisman, the soft, harmonious notes cutting through the tension like a knife through smoke. This odd tranquility was no surrender. It was a calculated rebuke to chaos, a visceral statement of defiance that echoed across the ramparts. Zhuge Liang was renowned not only for his military acumen, but also for his profound understanding of the human psyche. Here, he crafted a strategy that bypassed swords and arrows, opting instead for the subtleties of perception. Each chord strummed on his zither transformed into more than music. It became an artistic stroke in the masterful painting of deception. Zhuge understood that true power often lay in the realm of the unseen, in the ability to manipulate fear without showing force. To Sima Yi, the absence of noisy defences signalled an enigma, an open invitation to read a chilling narrative into the soundless walls of the city. Sima Yi, conditioned by past encounters with Zhuge, approached with wary calculation. Cognizant of his nemesis's cunning, he hesitated, unsure if the trumpet of silence masked impending doom. This fear, expertly leveraged by Zhuge, played upon Sima Yi's own tactical instincts, sowing seeds of doubt that took root and flourished where none should blossom. For the troops under Zhuge's command, the eerie notes whipped through the air marked more than a refrain. It was a clarion call to bravery in the face of odds that defied hope. For Sima Yi, the music castigated him with unspoken questions. Was this emptiness a ruse? Was this city of echoes hiding more than its surface conveyed? In the clash of uncertainties, Zhuge's zither became a fulcrum of strategy, its melody an invisible line of defence more robust than the ripple of any war drum. The harmonious strains presented an image of relentless composure, an unshaken resolve that taunted the enemy with visions of hidden traps, unseen archers, armies waiting in stealth that might pounce in silent unity. The absence of battle cries, the lack of chaos from clashing armies. These two formed a stratagem, one that trapped the enemy in a web spun from their own imagination. Zhuge Liang's nuanced understanding of psychological warfare transcended mere deception. He recognized that the mind is its own battleground, one where the fight often swings less on material strength and more on mental acuity. By cultivating an aura of mystery, Zhuge armed himself not with soldiers, but with the potent intangible: fear. The psychological trap closed around the enemy as a quiet but unyielding siege, each tick of silence hydrating new doubts within Sima Yi's ranks. Ultimately, the melodious hum of the zither emerged as the true protagonist. Against the backdrop of war, where the clatter of spears or the breathless frenzy of battle might usually play out, silence became its dénouement. Sima Yi, shrouded in his own wariness, made the strategic retreat, an invisible line drawn by a soundless threat. It was a victory inscribed in silence, not clamour, a tribute to Zhuge Liang's inimitable brilliance. The tale of this remarkable event reverberates in the annals of history as a testament of thought prevailing over the sword's blade. Even as the narrative blurs with the passage of time, its core remains, an immortal parable showcasing the might of intellect over might itself. Zhuge's actions have inspired military tacticians and everyday leaders alike, underscoring that genuine strength often lies in restraint and cunning. As Zhuge Liang's legacy continues to sing through corridors of strategic thought, the resonant melody remains a timeless lesson in courage, masked by calm, strategy dressed in simplicity, and victory achieved without violence. Through his silent symphony, Zhuge Liang has left an indelible note on history, one that urges us, even now, to pause and listen to the wisdom found between the clatter of chaos. And if you found this journey into history intriguing, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more captivating tales of the past.